At the end of this video you will be able to read two notes ligatures without errors. Welcome to this new video about White Mensural Notation. I'm Ricardus and my job is to help you to learn Renaissance music theory and to discover all the secrets about early music. In this third video I explain you a topic that may seem difficult, but it is not really true. If you understand the simple mechanism, how they work, it will be very easy to recognize all situations. I'm talking about ligatures. But what are ligatures? Ligatures are figures that contain two or more than two figures in only one figure. We have two main situations. The first situation is a ligature with two notes, a two-note ligatures. And the second situation is a ligature with more than two notes. So we have to distinguish these two cases. In this video, we talk about only the first case. So I show you all the rules to read the two notes ligatures. Let's start. Before starting to see the rules to read the ligatures, I must know which figures I can write in ligatures, because it is not possible to write all the figures in ligatures. They are the maxima, the longa, the brevis and the semibrevis. So the minima, the semiminima, the chroma and the semichroma we can't write in ligature. Another thing you have to know about ligature is that on a ligature can be only one syllable. For this reason, when in a Renaissance speech I meet one ligature, I can only sing one syllable on this ligature. So all the ligature explains a situation of legato. So let's start with the first rule of two notes ligatures. The first rule says two ascending notes are brevis and brevis. The second rule says that two descending notes are longa and longa. As you can see, the form is the same, the form of each square, but the only difference is the position and the direction of all these squares. So remember, when I meet a ligature that is composed of two ascending notes, they are brevis, brevis. I have to look at the direction. In the second case, two descending notes are longa, longa. Also in this case, I have to consider only the direction and not the form of the notes I explained you in the first video. Now let's look at the first case. If I want to write a longa at the place of the first brevis, I have to add a vertical descending line at the right of the first note, in this way. This ligature is composed of a longa and a brevis. So I see two ascending notes, but at the right of the first note I see a vertical descending line that it is called pilum. So the first note is not brevis but longa because of this pilum. In a similar way, if I want the second note longa, I have to add the pilum at the right of the second note, in this way. In this example, I have a brevis and a longa. And if I want two longas, I have to write two pilum. In this case, I have a longa and a longa. I have two longas. So the rule to transform this ligature brevis brevis in longa longa or longa brevis or brevis longa is to add a pilum at the right of the note I want to transform in a longa. Now let's see this case, the second case. In the second case I have two descending notes that are longa and longa. How can I do to transform these two notes in, for example, brevis and longa? If I want to transform the first note, that is longa, in brevis, I have to add also in this case a pilum, but not at the right, but at the left. As you can see, this pilum, this descending pilum at the left of the first note, transforms this longa in brevis. So remember, the right pilum makes the note longa. The left pilum makes the note brevis. But what I have to do to transform the second note from longa to brevis? In this case, I have to use another form. It is the obliqua form. The obliqua form makes the second note of the ligature from longa to brevis. As you can see, the obliqua form only transforms the second note. The obliqua form indicates only two notes. The first note that is here and the second note that is here. The obliqua form is not a glissando. It only indicates two notes. I have to look where is the beginning and the end of the ligature. And what I have to do if I want to transform this ligature from longa longa to brevis brevis, obviously I have to unify these two figures in this one. These new figures indicates brevis brevis, the new situation in which I have transformed this figure longa longa to brevis brevis. The first is brevis because I have a left descending pilum, and the second is brevis because I have the obliqua form. So these rules may seem complicated, but remember that you have to understand the mechanism that is very simple. So let's recap the mechanism. The starting point is that two ascending notes are brevis brevis, two descending notes are longa longa. If I want to transform a brevis to longa, I have to add a right descending pilum. A right descending pilum. A pilum at the right of the note I want to transform in longa, from brevis to longa. And if I want to transform a note from longa to brevis, in the second case, I have to add a left descending pilum. But if the note I want to transform in brevis is the second note of a two-note ligature, I have to use the obliqua form, as you can see in this case. For a complete theoretical explanation of ligature of two notes, I have also to explain you that the brevis property of the first note is called propietas. In the longa property of the second note is called perfectio. This is a theoretical aspect that it is not important for the practical use for reading an early music page. So we have four situations. The first situation is called cum proprietate et cum perfectione. As I said before, the propietas or proprietate with cum proprietate is the brevis property of the first note. So when the first note of a two-note ligature is brevis, I have the propietas. So cum propietate. Cum in Latin means with. In the first case and in the second case, I have cum propietate, because the first note and the second note are brevis, and also cum perfectione, because the perfectio or perfectione with cum refers to the longa property of the second note. So, with. Perfectio means that the second note is longa. The second case is sine proprietate et cum perfectione. So let's look at the two examples. The first note is longa, so the first note doesn't have the propietas. For this reason, this ligature is sine in English, without perfection, but these ligatures have the second note longa, so cum perfectione, with perfection. The third case is cum propietate et sine perfectione. As you can see in the following two examples, the first note is brevis, but the second is also brevis, so I have the propietas because the first note is brevis, but I don't have the perfezione, the perfectio, because the second note is brevis and not longa. For this reason, this case is cum propietate, but sine perfectione, with propietas, but without perfection. The fourth case is sine propietate et sine perfectione. As you can see in the following two examples, the first note is longa and the second note is brevis. So I have the opposite case, the inversion of the cum propietate et sine perfectione. That is brevis plus longa. In this case I have longa plus brevis. So without propietas and without perfection, I have this case, longa plus brevis. Without propietas and without perfection. Before greetings, let's see the last case. As I said at the beginning of this video, I can write in ligature also the semibrevis. But how can I do that? This is a particular case. Let's see some examples. As you can see, these four examples have a left vertical line. This left vertical line, this pilum at the left and in the vertical direction, transforms the two notes in semibrevis and semibrevis. All these figures are semibrevis and semibrevis. This case, in the theoretical explanation, is called cum opposita proprietate. So, with opposite propietas. Well, for this first video about ligature is enough. Subscribe the Semibrevis membership on my Patreon page to download the PDF with the paper and all the explanation of this video and also some exercitation. I hope that this video has been useful for you. If it's right, leave me your like and subscribe to my channel. And see you in the next video about ligature of more than two notes. Bye!